This is Karen with newclevelandradio.net, and it is time for Avoid the Maze. You Are Special. Now, in the show notes, there is going to be a long bio regarding my guest because I invited him on because I just think he's amazing. Um, and I call you on this show, Avoid the Maze. You Are Special, because you very much talk from a parent's point of view. And parenting is probably the hardest thing that most of us do. And our children, they learn from us. And sometimes we're not sure that they're learning what they're supposed to be learning. And I have to tell you, it took me almost 30 years to realize that my son really did listen. And now he's 34 and he's very much on his own and very well equipped. However, if you would have asked me when he was 5 or 15 or even 25, I would have said lost cause, but definitely not. So, Yusef Marshall, tell us who you are and how you became the person you are today.
Oh, what a tough question. Well, first off, Karen, thanks for having me on. I'm excited about this, and your show is awesome. Glad to actually be here with you. It's a blessing. As far as who I am, I guess it's weird. I was kind of refer to myself as a wearer of many hats and a jack of all trades. I got a chance to touch on so many areas in my life, vocation-wise, career-wise, even creatively. And I think it was just a exploration trying to find my purpose and find out who I was. It's not encouraging to know that it's taken this long to get to the place where you got at least a general sense of it's not fully developed yet, but you can't kind of know where you want to be. Some folks learn it in 10 years, some in 20. It's taken me much longer than that, sadly. But I'm excited about where I am. At this point, I think I'm deeply entrenched in nonprofit work. My wife and I started a nonprofit a few months ago for children awareness and children advocacy. So a lot of our efforts that we've even seen over the years, even before we knew we were going to be doing this, we see it's paying off. It's making sense that we're in this arena. It's not easy, but we definitely locked in here. My podcast work is very abundant. I'm doing a lot of that, guesting and hosting on shows like yours. So I'm definitely grateful for meeting you and being here and being a part of this community. Uh, but I think the biggest thing I'm trying to accomplish is what I think has been a lifelong, and I really mean that quite literally, a lifelong journey into finding purpose. I think it's the question that I don't care if I was doing one of my coaching services or if I was just talking to people via the podcast, listeners and viewers, or just people talking to people in my circles of influence. They all have the same complaint or the same concerns. Why am I here? Why am I enduring this situation in this workplace? Why am I in this cubicle dealing with this stuff all the time? And it all comes to purpose. And what I dedicated my life to doing is trying to help people find it. Not that I'm an expert or that I've mastered it myself, because Lord knows that's not true. But what I want to do is try to help direct people to kind of ask some different questions, not the one that people normally ask. Oh, if I get this job and it pays 6 figures, is this my purpose? It sure it feels good. I
Right.
can buy a new car and buy a couch and a new bed, but is this my purpose? So kind of help people ask the right questions and walk with them in most cases, on this journey, helping them find it. So that's kind of my
You,
goal for everything I'm doing.
I think that's terrific because let's stop and think about it. We're never, we aren't taught to find our purpose in life.
Yeah.
We're taught that, mom and dad might think that we'd make a good teacher, a good lawyer, a good doctor, a good craftsperson. And so we hear that. And whether we want to do it or not, we try. And if we don't do well at it, then we feel like a failure. Not only a failure for ourselves, but oh, mom and dad thought this is what I should do. Um, I grew up in a family where my parents had expectations for us kids, and my two older brothers and I, we did not follow them. And at times we did feel guilty. especially when we were struggling. But then we realized, hey, we're happy. If we're happy, there's a difference. Would I have been happy being um, a school teacher, which is what my parents wanted me to be? Absolutely not, because
Hmm.
I don't have, I love children, but I love them when they're doing something that I can relate to. And if I can't relate to it, I need to go someplace else. But when I read your bio, not only have you traveled many paths, but you've educated yourself in all those paths. And most of us don't do that. We just think, hey, this is what I'm going to do. We just jump in head first. We don't even look at the material that probably is going to lead us in that direction. So, how did you become an adult, keep going to school, raise a family, work? I mean, that's where I say, you are amazing.
That's really nice of you. Uh, it's a somewhat of a complex uh, answer. Awesome question, by the way, though, Karen. It's complex because I think it's a number of things. It's not just one thing. I think one of the biggest things I saw. My mom is from the Virgin Islands originally, and her mom before her was from Panama and Cuba. So they came to America with, of course, the dream in mind, the American dream. We could talk about that different day, different time, what that actually is now. But they came in with a strong work ethic, and my mom, I literally watched her my entire life. She was a lifetime student, always in school, and in most of I probably say my first 15 years of life, she was working two jobs and going to school pretty much throughout that entire time. Not totally sure what she was chasing, but I know she was chasing something, and she was chasing it vigorously, and she never quit. She always had her head in a book, or our household was full of dictionaries and Encyclopedia Britannica. I mean, I grew up with those books around me. National Geographic. I was an avid reader. I got that from her for sure. I got my work ethic from her for sure. Uh, like I said, it's a number of things because I got that from her, and I definitely want to grow myself. But somewhere I don't know where the reading part came in because I saw her do that, but that was a different level. I mean, I read voraciously now. I probably read more than I've ever seen her read. That's why I said I'm not quite sure where that comes from. I don't know who to attribute it to, but I mean, I used to read, and up to recent I was reading 20 something books a year. I know folks that do more than that and they're more aggressive, and I respect them, but I want to try to learn about what I'm reading and actually have some personal application involved. So I want to read through books too quickly, but I read a lot of books a year because I want to grow. I don't know how I can help people with purpose, which is something I've resigned myself to doing. It's not a burden. I actually want to do it. I think it's worth it because our old mentor, he's going on to be with the Lord already, but he had a quote that I just love, and he was saying that the richest place in the world is not the Fort Knox, it's not the oil fields in Saudi Arabia, it's the graveyard because that's where all of the work that hasn't been done, all the inventions that haven't been invented, the songs that haven't been scribed yet, that's where they all are. And I don't want people to go through their life and end up full and having put out all the things that they should have put out. So for me, I take it personal myself. I'm like, how can I help somebody with purpose if I don't venturing at myself? So I'm always reading, to your point, Karen. I'm always reading. I'm always trying to figure out how to grow, apply what I'm reading. If it makes sense, if it's not good, I'll do what I heard back in the day. I'll take the meat and throw away the bones. But I always try to just develop myself because I'm big on that. Because if I can't lead myself, I can't lead anybody else. I can't develop leaders. This is what I do outside of podcasting. I can't develop leaders if I don't develop myself first. So I definitely read voraciously. I'm a writer. I journal a lot, which that sounds weird, but I write
That's a
down I write down thoughts a lot because I want to hear what's going on. It sounds great in here until it comes out. I want to make sure it's still good out here too. So I read and I write a lot, and I'm definitely a listener. I believe in mentorship, and all those things play a part in my growth and my development. I've always sought after that everywhere, And the most important part also is the community.
Oh,
I always try to
absolutely.
find community of people who are like-minded, who kind of see things maybe on a higher level than I do, pull me up, help stretch me so I can be the best version of myself that I can be. So that's important to me. So all those things play a part in your question. Hopefully
It's interesting because I just wrote a blog this morning, and in it, I talked about that first we have to figure out what we want. We've got to block out the world. We got to say to ourselves, what is it I want? And what am I willing to do to get there? Because a lot of us want that big fancy house, but we don't want to work hard enough to make the money, to buy the house, to keep the house up. We just want. And so it's how, if you want it, how do you plan to get it? What are you willing to do? But you also have to find that community to help support you. Because if you're in a community where people are looking totally opposite of you and not encouraging you, you're probably not going to succeed. And so
yeah.
you have to find those like minded people. And I'm not saying that all of your friends should be exactly like you, but you've got to have that community
No,
and you've got to
exactly.
share. But I'm really interested in this nonprofit that you and your wife have set up, helping children because our children desperately need help. And I'm working with a lot of parents today who are struggling because both mom and dad are working. They're trying to be there for their kids. Their kids may have some special needs. They don't have the time of the day, or at least they don't know how to find the time in the day to be for their kids. And I used to think that when my youngest was growing up, and I realized I had to find the time. He was diagnosed on the autism spectrum. He was high functioning.
Oh, okay.
I didn't need him to slip through the cracks. And so I had to get involved. What made you decide that this is really important?
I think my wife and I've always shared this. We've been married in August, it'll be 29 years, and we've always had an affinity for children. I'm not sure that we want to be we want to be around children 24/7. I don't think that's accurate. We go with our grandchildren go back to their parents. We don't have a problem with that. It's not it's
Right,
not
I get that.
it's not gut wrenching for us. We can handle it. But I think what we're noticing is, and I think anybody that has a soul, if you see children being harmed or abused, it should bother you at the very least, if not make you incensed, because they're so young and innocent they can't protect themselves. And I think what we're seeing in something that happened with our grandchildren as well, even with our daughters when they were younger, we noticed that the system, the educational system, didn't seem to be all inclusive and cover all the things that they need to live full lives and be highly functioning social people.
Right,
It didn't do that. And I think that I'm not sure if it was ever intended to be that way or if the parents expected it to be that way and maybe they abdicated some of their responsibility. I'm not quite sure. That's a different conversation perhaps. But what we saw was that there were three areas that we wanted to touch on in the nonprofit that we thought the educational system either weren't teaching anymore or didn't prioritize as important. I know that when kids get out of school, they might do a summer camp, but they don't want to do anything that resembles learning because
yep,
they've been doing that all that time. So they want to go swim, fish, etc., and do fun things. But we want to offer something to those that may desire that recognize that the school year didn't produce all of the things that they thought their kids should be well versed at. So we're emphasizing three specific pillars in our nonprofit, which is called Save the Children SC, by the way. So it's not just Save the Children, that's a different organization. It's Save the Children SC. That's it's a very important distinction. But we have three pillars that we're leaning on right now and that we're kind of pushing forward with some programs we're trying to develop right now. Reading literacy, which we saw some challenges with our grandkids. And it's like, wow, the school should be covering this kind of stuff, but they're kind of not. They're kind of pushing them through things. So reading literacy, financial literacy, knowing that when you go to a store with a $5 bill, how much change you should get back from what you buy. You'd be amazed how many kids that are still, and my grandkids are in this company. I've seen them not do well in this area at one point in time in their growing up. So this is something that we like. Wow, the store owners sometimes they won't even help you. They'll like they'll take the extra money because they're trying to survive, and it's
Yep.
opportunity to them. It's not about honesty. It's about just getting by. So I want our kids to be smart and know how much things cost and how to calculate that without counting on their fingers and
Yep.
understand how to do that. And of course, the last thing is life skills. That's probably one of the most important because man, our kids today, life skills, they're deficient at it. They don't know how to speak to the opposite sex with respect. They don't know how to respect themselves in the way that they conduct themselves, their attire, their speech, meeting a new person, looking them in the eye, sticking your hand out, shaking their hand, speaking to them clearly so they can hear you, tell them who you're introducing yourself to them, little things like that. You would think that it would be helpful, but what we're concerned about is that if you let just one generation pass by without learning it, the next ones suffer. They don't learn it down the road like, oh, okay, let's fix it. No, the generation gets weaker and weaker, so we want to try to catch it early. That's our hope. It's a lofty goal. It may sound like it's being really idealistic, but we think these three pillars are important to people, especially in our communities, and we want to try to help them out. So hopefully, Save the Children SC will be a beacon of light in those three areas. Hopefully, that's our hope and goal.
And it's sad because my son works in an industry where he brings in young teens to work in the summer. And he has this one young girl, and you talk about not knowing how to count change. She has no concept. And every day when she comes in, he goes through it with her over and over again. She doesn't understand why she has to. She says, well, the register tells me. Well, that's okay, but are you counting it right when you're taking it out of the register? Which she doesn't. It's maybe they get $1.72 back, and she'll take out $2.02, and he'll look at her and go, what does it say on there? And do you know how to make the 72 cents? And she'll look at him time and time again and say, well, no. And it's not that she's an ignorant young girl. She's not. It's just a skill that she was never told she had to have and not taught it in school. And there's simple things that I remember being taught in school. In fact, I remember even playing in kindergarten, and we would have a cash register and we'd have to give change back.
I remember this.
We don't do that anymore. It's like, oh, it's going to go on my credit card,
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I'm glad we didn't play that game when we were a kid. My goodness. Wow.
But I think what you and your wife are trying to do is so needed, especially now with the curriculum at schools being changed to such a degree that I'm not sure what our kids are going to learn in school. And I feel sorry for the teachers because they're not teaching, they're babysitting. And that's my personal opinion. So if anybody disagrees,
I agree with your opinion.
How do you find these children that you're working with? Or how do they find you?
Well, we have a website up, SaveTheChildrenSC.com. That's we can get some information from parents and kind of start enrolling them and registering in the programs. Once we start getting them up and running, we're doing a few things with daycares right now, kind of our first inaugural projects, if you will. So we're excited about that. As far as finding the children, I know that this amount of promotion that has to be done. I'm really just hoping that word of mouth is what kind of happens, at least initially anyway. I know that, because nonprofits we're not sitting on money. So,
Right.
promotions and marketing, we got to be creative. One of the things that I have been doing, and I'm not even a little bit ashamed about it. Our flagship show, One-on-One with Mr. U, we use that some degree to let people know what we're doing. I met a lady who does homeschooling, and actually interviewed her, and she told me that that's something that's not in their homeschool curriculum, in their resources, the things that I just named that we're trying to do. I'm like, really? I just assume that because it's homeschooling. I thought they were doing all the bare bones, everything, all the nuts and bolts. But she said, no, those kind of things are not part of it. Some math, some science, some reading, reading comprehension. She named something else too, but I'm not quite sure what it was. But not a whole lot of those things. I'm like, I just made an assumption that they were already doing that. I assumed the schools were doing it, but come to find out they're not. She said there's a market for what you guys are doing with the homeschooling community. So we're going to be leveraging some of those opportunities that we have. People who we know who do homeschooling with their kids or are part of a community, we're going to use that. So it kind of, we kind of, we're not winging it, but we're, trying to learn as we go along. And those are ways that we're able to get in contact with maybe children who may, or parents of children who may see this as valuable.
Well,
And
in taking those baby steps is how this is going to grow. And for people to realize that our kids aren't getting what they need. And because so many of us are overly busy parents, I mean, I know when my youngest was growing up, both my husband and I had full-time jobs and we had secondary jobs. And yet
oh wow,
we still did a lot of focus with our son. We would trade off when we were available. And we did what we did because we didn't have a choice. We had to. That's how we could survive. And I know there's other parents out there going through the same thing. And we sort of make assumptions. Our kids are going to learn certain skills at school. They're going to learn certain skills at church. They're going to learn certain skills in the community. But the problem is if it's not consistent, those skills sort of fall by the wayside. And
so true.
I'm not a grandmother. I don't think I'm going to be. Both my sons seem to be very happy without kids. But I feel for all the other young kids coming up into the world that I had a lot of opportunities growing up and I had a lot of support. And we've got to bring that back. One of the things I'm noticing behind you, and I'm assuming with the New York Giants and all that paraphernalia, you are a New Yorker, correct?
Yeah, I'm born and raised in New York. I'm not living there currently, but my family is still there. So still strong ties to the area. Yep, that's my home.
I I love it. We are a sports family as well. So, whenever I see sports paraphernalia, it's like, I love it because that's a great learning tool for our kids too. And I'm hoping that your organization will just keep blossoming and other people will see what you're doing and that how important it is. I mean, you noticed it through your own kids, you noticed it through your grandkids, and it's like, okay, we may not have done all the right things, but how can we change it? How can we bring this country back to where it should be? And there's my political 2 cents.
There you go. I'm with you. I'm in total agreement. Thank you for letting me even talk about it on your show. I mean, because sometimes I wonder, said, how are we going to do this? This is such a daunting task, and it requires so much. But every little bit helps. The support and people taking a look at what we're doing and sharing it with prospective people. All that stuff makes a difference. So it's like you said, it's baby steps. So thank you for even talking about it and allowing this platform that you've built for so long to be used to talk about a nonprofit who not even 6 months old yet. So I thank you for this. I really appreciate it.
Well, and I had a nonprofit organization many years ago, and it was before Zoom and social media.
All right.
It was the late 80s, early 90s. And I had people say to me, why are you doing this? Well, part of the reason I started mine was I needed support. I didn't know how else to go and do it other than starting something with other people needed as well.
Mm.
And then we became a community. And in a podcast I was doing yesterday, a young woman said to me, she's doing all of her hard work in her community. Her community will eventually grow. But if she tries to be huge right from the beginning, she probably will fail. And she said, so every day it's one more step. And she said, you know, by the time I leave this earth, she said, I don't know how many steps I'll have taken, but I want each one to count. And that's what it sounds like you and your wife are doing. You're making each step count.
We're trying. Thank you very much. This is awesome.
Well, we're going to have all your information in the show notes. So there's no reason why anybody can't find you. I'm going to be in touch with you off air because I'm starting another podcast with another group. And I'd like to get you the attention through them. So know that this is going to be the only podcast you're going to be on. I'm sure there's plenty more. And I
can see that. I'm on plenty.
And I'm going to spread the word through Podmatch that you are an excellent guest, but it's a subject that we all need to talk about.
Thank you. That's amazing. This is the kind of community that I've always dreamed of. I know a lot of folks, especially coming from New York, I know a lot of folks who got big dreams and goals, but it's tunnel vision. It's all about what they're trying to accomplish.
Yes.
This is not about our nonprofit. This is about the people that it serves. So that's all I really care about. If we can get them what they need, I'm good. I sleep well at night. That's what I care about. So this is awesome.
I know you and your wife are going to do well. And for all of you listening, jump on board. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye-bye now.